run we've ever seen
Right,
on the
like
bank.
there wasn't necessarily lines
Exactly.
in front of the bank. They just go on their phone.
Exactly.
Looking at banks to say, hey, is my money safe? We know from what happened at SVB, these things can move very quickly.
So what did the government do about it?
So after a couple of days of kind of wringing their hands, quite frankly, wondering if there was going to be what we call systemic risk, they decided to make the depositors whole. So as you know, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the FDIC, $1 in the jar. The FDIC insures deposits up to $250,000. This bank, SVB, I think 87% of its deposits were above that limit.
Like big money.
Big money. You know, we're talking about flower delivery companies, and we're talking about companies who are on Etsy, Roblox, for example, Roku, some of the names you might know. And so this was going to be a problem for their employees and for their payroll. So the government stepped in and said, we will insure all of those deposits. But
no losses will be borne by the taxpayers. Let me repeat that. No losses will be borne by the taxpayers.
we are not going to bail out the bank. We will bail out the depositors.
Investors in the banks will not be protected. They knowingly took a risk, and when the risk didn't pay off, investors lose their money. That's how capitalism works.
And so the depositors will be made whole, bank management fired, and the government took over. A second thing happened too. The Federal Reserve created a new facility, lending facilities it's called. So if you're one of these banks with these long-term, safe, but long-term treasuries, and you need to sell them at a loss,
Piece of cat.
you can now go to the Fed and say, hey, I need a loan.
You want a piece of cat
what
today?
these bonds I think they should be worth, not what the market thinks they're worth.
Last time you had a piece.
So the Fed essentially is giving favorable loans for a year, so banks don't have to sell those assets.
So did all that stuff work?
I think it worked. I think it stopped the bleeding. And I'll tell you, there are fundamentals in banking which are solid. There is strain. I mean, Moody's Investor Service put the whole sector on watch for weakness because of pressure from these higher interest rates. But it's the fear that was the big problem, and how quickly it spread. We hadn't seen it spread like that. So the fundamentals are different than the fear, and the fear is the harder thing to stop.
You mentioned the B word earlier, bailout.
Mm-hmm.
Was this a bailout? Because I know President Biden and the administration have gone to great pains to not say that word, saying like this is different. So what's the distinction?
So those depositors who are going to be made whole, venture capitalists, startups, that money comes from an FDIC insurance fund that is paid for by bank fees, the banking industry. Now, critics will argue, well, those banks are just going to turn around and raise fees for consumers, so consumers would pay for it anyway. That's a big fight that